So what is SEO in 2026? Well, it's getting very confusing because you have all kinds of definitions floating around. We have SEO, we have AI SEO, we have search engine optimization versus search everywhere optimization. Then you throw in the new acronyms. You've got answer engine optimization, AEO. You've got generative engine optimization, GEO. Okay. And so it's just getting absolutely crazy at this point. So in this video, I'm going to bring this all together and show you what SEO actually is in 2026, all of the different components, so you can truly understand how to get results, not just in traditional search, but also on these AI platforms. And so my name is Nathan Gotch, and I've been doing SEO for over a decade, and I've led hundreds of successful SEO campaigns in legal, health, B2B, SaaS, you name it. I've seen pretty much every scenario that you can think of. And I also run two SEO companies and that are heavily driven by AI. So I have Rankability and I also have Search OS. And just if you need to see other proof that I'm not just some random guy talking on YouTube, you can go to Amazon. You can see I'm the author of one of the best-selling books on how to start an SEO business. And I'm also the upcoming author of AI SEO for Dummies. Okay. So I eat, breathe, and sleep SEO and AI search and AI in general, using AI in every single thing that I do. Okay. So let's talk about it. So SEO in 2026. Let's begin with the simple part here is the opportunities. Okay, let's just start with the opportunities. So when it comes to SEO, my true definition of SEO is search everywhere optimization, okay? Because it is truly the broadest umbrella that properly defines what we're doing. So I'm gonna give you a couple examples of this. So let's begin with the most obvious part of SEO, which is, we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna fill this out as we go. So traditional search, okay? So what is traditional search? Well, it is Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, and Brave. Okay, and there's some others we could throw in there too, but essentially a traditional search engine, what everyone knows, you got the 10 blue links, it's just an index of web pages, okay? This still matters, but not the way that you might think, okay? So number one is, yes, you can still get traffic. Okay, you can still get traffic through this. It's just decreasing every single day because of organic CTRs getting more challenging to come by, okay? Because there's so many other things that are going on now in the SERPs. So, but traditionally you would rank for, rank your web page or your website, and you would drive clicks through this traditional index. Now, what I'm going to be showing you here in a second is this still matters, but the reason why it matters is because it actually is the fuel for the AI platforms, okay? So let's talk about that. So we've got our opportunities, we've got our traditional search. Next, we're going to talk about AI, okay? So what is AI? And specifically, let's get more specifically here, AI search, okay? So there's two components of AI search. Number one is the static corpus, okay? And what this means is that when you go into ChatGPT and you search something like, what is the moon? And ChatGPT just responds to you without going and doing any research on the internet, it's pulling from its static corpus. In other words, it's pulling from its existing knowledge, right? It's existing knowledge, it's existing training data, and it's giving you an answer, okay? As an AI SEO expert, you need to know that you want to influence the static corpus, which is that initial training data. And you also want to influence, which I'll show you here in a second, is any answers that are derived from web search, okay? Now, on this front here, this is what's interesting about static corpus is there's a training cutoff date, okay? So GPT 5.4 just came out, and there's a training date. So as soon as that date hits, when it ingests all of this information, you can't influence this anymore. So if the training date was 6 months ago, whatever you got in prior to that point is going to be baked into the static corpus. Anything after that, it's invisible. It's invisible to the AI models. So I don't know if this is always going to be the case, but for now, this is the case. This is how it works. So they go through these big training cycles, they train the model, they cut off the model from any new training data, and then they release that model, right? And so it's kind of whenever you're working with any model, you're technically looking maybe 3, potentially even 6 months in the past, okay? Now, how have AI platforms overcome this? Well, if you need up-to-date information about anything, you need to ultimately go to the internet, right? Because search engines are the most up-to-date source for information. So these AI platforms, they realize that the best way to stay up to date and not just be feeding outdated information to users, they've added the web search component. Okay. Now, web search, this is also known as RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, super geeky term. But in essence, what's going on here is when you search something like, what are the best baseball cleats right now in 2026? ChatGPT is not just going to give you that answer, right? It's going to go to the web. It's going to look for opportunities to enhance that answer, get more accuracy, and deliver an accurate, up-to-date response to the user. Okay. Now, here's where SEO comes in. Come to find out, one of the top sources of retrieval where they go and get information happens to be search. So watch this. This is the crazy part. You go like this. And this is going to get really messy super fast, but I just want to show you for demonstration, okay? This is actually all interconnected, okay? You can see that web search is actually traditional search. And that's why I'm telling you that traditional search is still critical. If you want to be able to influence the output from these AI search platforms, if you want to be able to bake in your brand into those answers, you got to do well in traditional search. This has not gone anywhere. You still have to do this, okay? So those are kind of like key components you need to be thinking about. Now, when it comes to AI search, what is it? What are the platforms that actually matter? Okay. So first we can talk about Google, because Google is the most popular traditional search engine, but it also has multiple AI products that you need to be paying attention to. And no, they are not the same. Every single AI product that Google has doesn't exactly produce the same outcome. And that's because AI in general, when it gives you an answer, it's a non-deterministic answer. It's very difficult to get AI to give you the same exact answer across multiple platforms. It just really does not happen. It's basically impossible. So for Google, it's got multiple AI products we need to be thinking about. So we have AI overviews, and these are what you see when you're in traditional Google search, right? So if we just run a real quick one, what are the best baseball cleats? Our best, yeah, that's a good one. Let's do that auto suggest. So you can see here, AI overview. This is what pops up directly in the SERPs, okay? And you can see it's very disruptive to the traditional SERPs, right? We see it completely dominates. It like just pushes everything below the fold, okay? So this is a critical AI product that we need to be paying attention to. Now, Google is technology is being used in the underlying layer across all their AI products. Is still Gemini, but it's just the way that these are structured. The citations that they use is never exactly the same, and I'll show you how to track this. But this is critical. So AI product number one, if you're selling baseball cards, you need to be here. Okay, you want to be in the AI answer, but you also want to be one of the citations. And in addition to being one of the citations, you also want your brand to be cited on the other citations as much as possible, okay? So going back to this, so we have AI overviews, all right? Next one is Google AI mode, okay? I don't need to put Google twice because we know what we're talking about here. All right, so we'll go to AI mode. Once again, you're in here, you're on Google, you click on AI mode. Boom, you're going to get a slightly different answer than what you just got in the AI overviews. Okay, and we can even see, just based on my memory here, the citation sources are even different in this initial run here. Okay, so we're seeing that we've got a different set of citations, different set of retrieval sources, and even the answer itself is slightly different. Okay, so these are not the same. And we know this because in rankability, we track this. We track performance in AI mode and we track performance in AI overviews, and you don't always see the same stuff. And then the third Google AI product that you need to know about is Google Gemini. So there are searches being conducted here all the time. They're just probably a little bit different. They're probably a little more context. They're not, kind of these short queries are probably much longer queries in here, but still there is still search demand occurring on Gemini. So we're going to go back over here. And so we have just in Google alone, we have AI overviews, we have AI mode, and we have Gemini. Okay. Now, aside from that, the next biggest AI platform that you need to pay attention to goes without saying, which is ChatGPT. Okay. We know that ChatGPT this is over, last time they reported this, I think it's 700 million weekly active users. So it's probably much more than that now. And it continues to grow. So of the AI platform specifically, if you exclude traditional search, ChatGPT has, I think the last report was that they have over 50% of the market. Okay. So it's a lot, right? They're huge. So we have to be paying attention. We have to be tracking our performance on these critical platforms. Now, let's talk about some of the other platforms that are also important, just not as important as these two bigger monsters here. So we'll go and talk about, we have, aside from that, we have Claude, which is growing very fast, which is through Anthropic, the company. A lot of people are using Claude for, co-work and all of the different functions that Claude has. So you need to pay attention to it. Okay. We also have Perplexity, also a very popular search engine, AI search engine, but just not as big as these other ones. Okay. We also have Grok. Lots of people use Grok, and Grok is unique because it is heavily fueled by X. So a lot of the retrieval sources are actually X. So it makes it unique in that way. Okay. And then we have, Microsoft Copilot, which is also a big one if you're a big Microsoft user. And then those are like probably the core ones I'd be paying attention. Of course, you can throw in like DeepSeek and so on and so forth. Okay. So there's a significant amount of platforms that we need to be thinking about. And these are all the AI driven platforms that we need to be paying attention to. Okay. So as you can tell, SEO is much more than just this. It used to be just this, but now when you add in all these other opportunities, you start to see that this is much more than just traditional SEO. Okay. Now there's more though. We're just getting started. Those are just those opportunities. Don't worry. This is not as complicated as it might seem right now, okay? Because a lot of these platforms here, they basically function the same way, okay? They're not like, each one is different. They all just copy each other. So that's the good news. They just copy each other. So the optimization process is quite similar across most of the platforms. You're going to see it produces different outcomes, different answers, different citations. Yes, it's all different because just the way that it's composed in these AI answers, but you'll see it's not that wildly different. Okay. All right. So the next one here we want to definitely be focused on is local. Okay. And when it comes to local, it's pretty much Google all day. Okay. Google dominates local queries. It's not even close. It is definitely the number one platform for local queries. And when it comes to local queries, it's quite simple. It's the Google Business Profile. Okay. The Google Business Profile is the center of local performance on Google. And it's not just that for traditional, the local pack, which we know you need a Google Business Profile to show up there. We've got the local pack, which is critical. But how you perform in the local pack also dictates how you perform in Google's AI mode. So very, very important when people are conducting local queries with commercial intent. Okay. So that would be something like, we'll do an example. It might be like, who's the best plumber near me? Okay. And AI mode is very good at knowing your location. So you wouldn't even need to add that you wouldn't need to add that modifier in there. It would probably still give you a pretty good answer. But if you wanted a better answer, you'd say, who's the best plumber in, Chesterfield? Right? That would obviously produce a better result, a more relevant result, because AI mode is not going to be 100% accurate. Now, what it does though, is when it goes through this process, I'm getting a little OCD here, so I need to make the padding more. So when it goes through this process, runs this query and it gives an answer, okay, what it actually is going to do is it's going to go actually and look in local search, and it's look specifically at what businesses are showing up in the local pack. Okay. And so when it produces that answer, it's going to show businesses, right? You're going to see businesses popping up in that answer, but they're derived directly from the local pack. Okay, so you can see how this all kind of works together, right? And so we can even I'll just run a real quick test so you can see this. So we'll look at who's the best plumber in Chesterfield, Missouri. Okay. And of course, Google can't give you that exact answer because it can't just choose one. But you can see here in the AI overviews, you'll see that the answers that are derived here are different than the answers that will be derived in AI mode. So in AI overviews, you'll see that it's actually pulling from a lot of websites. Okay. So Angie's List, Yelp, even a actual business in that location. Okay, so this shows that traditional search is critical, and also being on these other third-party platforms is critical if you want to influence the AI overview. Okay, but then we go over to AI mode, and this is where things will get a lot different, because more than likely what we'll see here is it will pull from those sources again, but then you'll see it actually is going to show Google business profiles in here. Okay, and these are based on our data, we've seen that these are usually just the businesses that perform well in the local pack. It's literally that simple. Like the businesses that perform well in the local pack here, or perform in the local pack, perform well in Google AI mode. Okay, so if you want better performance in Google AI mode, you need to do well in the local pack. That is the leading opportunity there. Okay, and in addition to the traditional search as well. Okay. All right. And then when it comes to the other AI platforms, this is where things get a little interesting, is we'll say non-Google. So non-Google platforms, they are much more heavily driven by the third-party platforms. So when you go into ChatGPT and we do we'll run this same exact query in ChatGPT and we'll use 5.4. So who's the best plumber in Chesterfield, Missouri right now? All right, so we're going to run this, and it will more than likely is going to go and trigger a web search or do retrieval. So you'll see when it does this thinking here, this means it's going and doing research. Okay, so you'll see here, it's actually going to kind of dictate what it's doing, but it's going to go and do the research. And what you're going to find here is it's not just going to be searching. It's not going to search Google, right? It's going to search Angie. It's going to search Yelp. It's going to go to search engines, more than likely Bing. But you'll see a lot of this stuff is going to be very similar to what you'll see in the traditional search results. So, but you see it went directly to Angie. So that was probably a direct retrieval. This was not it going to search. So this is important to understand that it's not always going to search engines, right? Sometimes it is going direct retrieval, right? So we can see now the retrieval sources here. This is where the magic happens, because if you want to be a brand that pops up in this AI answer, you need to be in these retrieval sources. So the good news is you just look at all these retrieval sources and see, is our brand actually here? Like, are we listed on these retrieval sources? Yes or no? It's simple as that. And if the answer is no, that's the work that you have to do. You go in here, you build a profile there, you optimize your profile, you start driving reviews on Angie, Better Business Bureau, whatever's showing up in these citations. This is the work, right? This is where you need to go and take action there to influence this answer. Remember, this answer is not a magical thing that occurs. It's just it's doing research, and then it's presenting an answer that it's attempting to be objective based on the research that it did. The AI does not know who's the best plumber. All it's doing is getting that raw material, and then it's able to produce, at least it's attempting to produce something that's objective. Right? That's what it's trying to do. Okay. So for us, our goal to influence this is we have to be here. Okay. Simple as that. Okay. So we're good. We've got local, and you probably think, all right, yeah, I guess we're good to go. That's SEO. Well, no, there's actually more. So let's continue down this way. So we'll move this over here. This is getting out of control. All right. I'll put it like this. All right. So the next one here. Let's see. All right. Okay, so the next one is actually e-commerce. So obviously, these are not going to be applicable to every industry, but we do have e-commerce search, okay? And within this bucket, you have Amazon, Walmart, Etsy, and even eBay. eBay's had quite the resurgence recently. So, those are all platforms where you can actually do SEO on these platforms, right? You can do Amazon SEO. You can do Walmart SEO. This is why understanding SEO in general is so incredibly powerful, because you can apply the same principles of relevance across any platform, right? Relevance is key. Okay. So, and even I'll kind of give you a meta example here, but like right now, this video that I'm doing is going to be for the next opportunity, which we'll go ahead and click. Let's go this way. This is getting wild. 1 second here. Okay. I'll bring this over here, and we'll bring this one over here. Okay. So the next one here is actually going to be social. I don't really like putting YouTube into social, but for the sake of this video, we'll just say that. Okay, so we have social search. All right, the number one social search, if you want to call it, is YouTube. Okay, it's not even close. YouTube is the second most popular website on the internet besides google.com. So it is a place that you need to be, and you need to understand SEO for YouTube specifically. And here's the good news about doing SEO across any platform. If you just understand that you need to create relevant content to your subject matter expertise, and you need to consistently do that all the time to retain the topical relevance of your channel, of your Instagram profile, of whatever it is, that's the number one thing that's going to help you. Okay. So on YouTube, you want to pick a particular niche that you want to focus in on. Unless you're some sort of lifestyle blogger and you're trying to do that. Okay, cool. But I'm talking specifically about B2B. If you're in B2B, you need to pick a niche. You need to specialize in that niche, and all of your content needs to focus on that for an extended amount of time. If you're going to be, you're a SEO agency for chiropractors, all of your content should be about SEO for chiropractors. And you shouldn't produce anything else until it is abundantly clear to the algorithms that that's what you do. Okay. And there's this compound effect. The more that you focus in on that, the better it will do. And I'll give you small examples. Like on my channel, I've been talking about SEO on my channel since 2017. Okay. So I have a lot of raw material to work with. But as soon as I talk about a topic that's aside from SEO, like let's say I go totally off the rails, I'm like, I'm going to do Facebook ads, today. It will probably do very poorly. Okay. Very, very poorly, because the algorithms will be very confused why all of a sudden now I'm talking about Facebook ads, right? And it's not going to probably put that in front of the right audience, because I've established that my focus on my channel is SEO, AI search, and so on and so forth. Okay. So anything directly related to SEO. So it's an advantage for performance. It's a disadvantage if you want to expand outside of that niche. Okay. So, but it's not impossible either, by the way. If you want to expand into an adjacent vertical or adjacent niche, you would just need to produce a similar volume of content around that one topic to retrain the algorithms, right? So, but you can't just do kind of one-off stuff. It's not really going to do anything. All right. So YouTube is absolutely huge. And in addition to YouTube, you should be thinking about search across all of these other platforms. So, LinkedIn, obviously being optimized there. You got X, you've got Pinterest, you've got obviously TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got Facebook, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is all the social search. So, and this is probably 95% of search, like all the stuff I just mentioned, but you also have App Store optimization and other stuff like that. But those are all going to be case by case basis. For most businesses, you're going to be, the core ones that really matter for every business, not just specific use cases. Obviously traditional search, because we know this is the fuel. Let's see if I can turn this to a different color. This is the fuel for AI platforms. So doing well here is critical. AI search goes without saying. Every business needs to be thinking about AI search. Every single business. It does not matter what you do. It matters for every business. So these two are universal for every business. Traditional search and AI search goes without saying. Okay. Then you just pop in, your specific vertical use case. Okay. So those are the opportunities. And as you can tell, SEO is much more than just ranking in blue links. Okay. And I think that's what's really important here is if you're going to do well at SEO, if you're going to sell SEO to businesses, you're going to help businesses with SEO, you're going to try to do SEO yourself. This is the mindset you have to have. You're not just thinking, I'm just running traditional search and everything's going to go well. Not necessarily. Okay. Not necessarily. And I'll show you a quick example of this inside of Rankability. you'll see this is best SEO content optimization tool. So very competitive keyword, okay? You can see rankability absolutely crushes it in traditional search, okay? I mean, we could do better. Yes, there's always more room for improvement, but like it's doing really, really well, okay? But then you go to the AI answers and we're not number one, right? So, and then we've seen this repeated over and over and over. Just because you're doing well in traditional search for your one URL, that's not enough to influence every AI platform, right? Because that's just one citation source, right? You're just one citation source among many. And as I just showed you in this example, there's many citation sources that happen. So you need to be visible across all those citation sources. So we see gaps here, and these gaps are opportunities, okay? I see like, okay, we're not doing well in ChatGPT. All right, so we click on ChatGPT and see, okay, well, why is that? Well, number one, we're definitely not mentioned here. So we got to go figure out what citations is ChatGPT using? What retrieval sources is ChatGPT using? Then I'm going to go and make sure that our brand is present on those platforms, right? And so you can go into the AI citations like this, and you can see, once again, rankability has a lot of citation coverage, right? Across 5 different AI platforms we're being cited, okay? But once again, that's just one. That's just one. So we can see mentions. You can even see where you're mentioned in here, which is also helpful, right? You want to see what are the platforms where we actually are mentioned, but what are the ones where we're completely invisible, right? And so we see here, we got Zapier, Marketer Milk, like all these different platforms where we absolutely would want to be a citation source. And if you filter through this is where it gets interesting. So we'll go to all, and then we'll filter out. And we know that ChatGPT we're not doing well on. So we just click on ChatGPT and we can see the core citation sources of ChatGPT. So, okay, cool. Tech Radar. I guess I need to be present there because they're used 3 times as a citation source, right? So I should be trying to figure out ways to get brand coverage on Tech Radar, okay? This is all you have to do. You just find those gaps, and then you go and try to figure out a strategy to get coverage on those websites, okay? This is why, thinking about traditional link building is not really the way you should be thinking anymore. You should be thinking about, okay, no, my prospects are the prospects that are being used as a common source of retrieval. And then you go and get your brand mentioned there. It doesn't matter whether it's a link or just a brand mention. You could literally have an unlinked brand mention on this particular website, and that still would influence AI platforms. Okay, the game has changed in that way. Okay, all right, so going back to this. So we know the opportunities, we know what we need to do. Now, what are a couple things as far as goals? So we'll pull this over here. And so there's kind of a couple goals that we need to be thinking about. Number one is we need to rank in traditional search with our own website. Goes without saying, okay? That has not changed. We should still be trying to do that. That's still very important because this is something we can control. We can actually produce content. We can try to attack many different queries, many different angles. We can just use our own website. Now, for our own website to rank well in traditional search, it's pretty simple. Really efficient technical SEO, good loading speed, mobile experience, security, all the stuff that's real basic stuff, okay? But then aside from that, creating pages around our core subject matter expertise, right? So just building as many pages of those as we can around our core expertise and filling in every gap that we can find. And then backlinks, okay? Getting links from relevant, high quality websites to your website is the most important ranking variable for traditional search. Okay, so we still want to rank our own website, but we also want to rank other properties outside of our website. So I'll just say outside of website. Now I'll show you an example of this. We'll look up, let's see, we'll go into here and we'll search something like, we'll just do a quick analysis. We'll do like best SEO tools. Okay, so we'll run this. And what we're going to see here is, yes, if you can get your one URL to rank, that's great. Okay, that's super good. But you'd also like to have rankings across other platforms. So in particular, when it comes to Google, YouTube is incredibly powerful, right? YouTube is one of the best sources to ultimately influence the AI platforms. YouTube is used quite a bit as a retrieval source. So we want to have a presence on YouTube, okay? And so like this video here that I'm currently doing, the primary keyword of this video is what is SEO? So I'm saying this very clearly in my script. The purpose of this video is to teach people what is SEO in 2026, okay? So when you say that in your video, it's actually the AI platforms use the transcription. So that's why you want to be really clear about your videos, what it's all about. If it's just kind of like meandering topics, you don't really know what it's about, it's going to be harder for that video to be placed, not just on YouTube, but also in traditional Google search, and also the AI platforms will struggle, right? So you don't want to have that. Now, when we look at this, a couple things I want to show you here. So number one is like, yes, you can rank in traditional search, but you can see there's a lot of other things we want to be thinking about is we want to also rank on YouTube, okay? Because this gives us an opportunity to actually show up in traditional search if it's a wildly competitive keyword, right? If it's a wildly competitive keyword, you might have a better chance of ranking on YouTube than you do in traditional, okay? Because you can see, like, you look at the strength of some of these websites, it's a lot, right? Like each of these websites, the domain score is very, very high. So you'd have to really do something spectacular and invest a significant amount of money into links just to show up, in the top 3. And even if you show up in the top 3, you're competing with so many other SERP features. Okay, so you want to be thinking about that. But then we go into YouTube, typically you might have a better chance of performing here, right? So you can see like ranking number 1 in YouTube with the video that's over a year old. Okay, now in traditional search, you're probably not going to get away with having stuff that's a year old, right? It's probably not going to work as well. So once again, what you want to be thinking about is how do we rank on platforms that are known to do very well in traditional search, okay? So that's the key. You don't just want to, I'm just going to start creating content everywhere. Actually, that's not what you want to do. You want to create really targeted content on platforms that already have good SEO performance, because we know that, as I mentioned before, traditional search is used quite a bit in retrieval. So some that I like to do will be YouTube, we know is very good for Google. We also have LinkedIn articles specifically. These rank really well. And if we look up like even, let's see, like OpenClaw, I don't even know if this is ranking, OpenClaw SEO, okay? And we'll see if there's any LinkedIn post popping up here. Okay, so you can see here right away, there's a LinkedIn post popping up here. This is what I'm talking about, right? And like, once again, another LinkedIn post. Actually, Instagram is actually popping up here, which is interesting. Go over here. Here's another one here from me. Another one actually from me, from X. So we see X is starting to get better indexation as well, and even Facebook, okay? So you can see you can use these other platforms to your advantage, right? So we got, LinkedIn articles, we've got X now. I didn't actually think X would get indexed that well, but there it is. We got IG. So all these platforms that can help us, because of their super powerful authority, can help us drive a lot of visibility, for our business ultimately in search. And then of course I forgot the most obvious ones, which is Reddit and Quora. Okay. These are critical as well. So this is what you want to be thinking about, is like, I'm not just ranking R1 URL. I rank R1 URL. Then what I do is I immediately start attacking these topics across these other platforms, okay, to try to drive as much visibility in traditional search and capture as much real estate as possible around the topics that really matter for us, okay? So those are the two kind of critical pieces for, the standard goals. But then in addition to that, the kind of lagging goal we're going for is to get our brand mentioned in AI answers, okay? So specifically for queries with commercial intent, okay? So an example would be like, what are the best AI SEO tools for agencies right now, right? And so if someone searches that, we would want rankability to be in that answer, right? And if we're not, we've got work to do. Okay, so that's a big one here. And then in addition to that goal, we also want to become a top source of retrieval. That's very important. So like our website becomes one of the top sources of retrieval. That's a big one. And then the last one here is we want to be present on the top sources of retrieval. Okay. And I can't spell. So let's try that again. All right, there we go. All right, so these are kind of the core goals that you need to be thinking about, okay? This is very important. As you can tell, our goals are not just about, hey, let's rank our one web page anymore. There's multiple goals we need to be thinking about, and this is why SEO is much more than what it's ever been before, but that makes it exciting. There's a lot of new opportunities that are going on, and if you understand all of this, you're going to be incredibly valuable to the marketplace. Okay, so now moving on to a couple other things I want to be thinking about here is, we'll quickly talk about threats. The threats are not as severe as people think they are. You probably see people saying all the time that SEO is dead and all this stuff. But the reality is, yes, the old school SEO is not a good idea if that's all you're going to do. If you're just going to be thinking about traditional search and ranking your one URL for one keyword, yes, you are definitely going to be in trouble. But if you're thinking about SEO as the way I'm describing it here, you're going to be fine if you understand how to do this, okay? Because it's not easy to actually execute this work, okay? Everything I'm describing to you, this is not a simple process to execute. And no, you can't just open up ChatGPT and figure this all out for you. There is still skill involved. There still is execution capabilities involved, okay? So we'll go down here, and execution's the next big one, okay? So how do you actually get results? Let's talk about that. How do you actually get results in traditional search? Well, you have to understand the strategy, obviously, and I've touched on a lot of different points here. But there is actually, we're in a very unique time right now because number one, you can use AI in general, right, to help you with execution. So of course, the most basic form is using ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude to help you out with some stuff, have it ask questions, have it develop some basic code stuff, do some deep research and data analysis. It can actually kind of help you formulate strategy a little bit. It's okay at that. This is we'll call this beginner level AI execution for SEO. Okay. But then you can go to the next level, which brings in agents. Okay. And agents are the next level of this, where you can actually, instead of just talking and chatting with the AI and copying and pasting stuff, you actually have the agent go out and do work for you. So I'll give you a small example of this. All right, so we'll go into Search OS, and I'll copy a prompt so you can see what this looks like using Claude Cowork. Okay, so we'll go, let's actually go into here, go to library. So in the agent skills, this is one thing you want to first, for any agents that you're going to be working with, whether it's OpenClaw or Claude Cowork, you want to start to be thinking about these skills. Now, skills are not SOPs. Skills are specific. It's like a skill that a human would have, right? You give a skill to the agent and it executes that skill. And based on the output that it produces from the skill that you had given it, you then correct course, right? So if it does a good job, you continue on. If it does a poor job, you iterate and you improve and you keep expanding that skill further and further. So treat your agents like an entry-level employee where you got to continually compound the skill over time, right? So you may think you've got a good kind of idea of okay, here's the skill, go and execute. But the reality is in practicality, when you actually get that output, very rarely is it going to be exactly what you want out of the gate. So you have to continually work with it over and over and over until eventually it's doing what it needs to do. So you can see here, I have the lead PM agent, project management. This is one thing I've basically been able to systemize almost fully using my agent, specifically in OpenClaw. So OpenClaw manages all of our projects inside of Search OS. And I do it through the Search OS API. So I've given OpenClaw the API. And so when I say, hey, I need you to go and assign this work, or I need you to go and organize this, organize our board, organize our projects, it can do that. It can also assign work to people. It can manage the workload. It can do all of that. Okay. But only because I've been training it over and over and over and over to the point where it can actually do that. Okay. Now, if you don't want to use something crazy like OpenClaw, which is much more intense and pretty intimidating, Claude is probably easier. Okay. So you can go over to you can use AI prompts. I've got a bunch of AI prompts in here. So we'll do a small one Chamber of Commerce Finder. Okay, so let's copy this over. So then you would just go into Google, and what I do is I open up the OpenClaw chat window here. Okay, and so for me, I'm pretty aggressive with this. I basically let it just run. I let it just do its stuff. But basically you drop this in here, and you obviously want to have a good prompt. Okay. Like that is the key to this being successful. So in this case, I'd be doing some sort of link prospecting for a local business. Okay. So you put in the prompt, you fill in all your stuff, and then you submit that prompt, and then Claude on this one tab will go and conduct this research for you. Okay. Incredibly powerful, right? Incredibly powerful. It can also save this in a Google Doc or Google Sheet. So it can do a lot. I do think though that OpenClaw is better if you're willing to get past the technicalities of it, because it's unlimited as far as its use case. It's not limited by anything. It's not limited by a particular platform. It can use any tool that it wants, right? So you can use anything. You don't just have to use Claude, right? And so I think there's advantages there. But if you want to have something that's a little more secure, something a little bit safer, something a little more potentially reliable in some cases, this is it. Now, I will tell you, using this browser extension, be careful, okay? Because there's a couple things that will happen. Number one is when you get really long jobs, it can break, and it will just kill the job, and then your work can get erased. I've also had this, the browser's crashed many times. So when the browser crashes, anything that you have in here that's been collected, gone. It's absolutely gone. It does not save. Now, this could be user error on my end, but I have not found a way to properly save the data when you're using just the pure browser extension like I'm doing now. It doesn't go into Claude, right? So as soon as it finishes a job, the first thing you want to do is copy that information and go and put it into a Google Doc just to make sure, because if it crashes, you're going to lose it. Okay. So that's what I would be thinking about on this. And this is, once again, one simple use case for agents where you just, use good solid prompts and let the agent go and do your link prospecting, do your one I just did recently was for finding opportunities inside for rankability, that we had a bunch of outdated logos and stuff like that. I had this go and do that. Another simple one is I had Claude go and update our G2 profile. Okay. So I actually I was logged in G2, and I let it change all of the settings. So I said, hey, go to our website and make sure that our G2 profile is up to date with the most current information, and it's 100% accurate. So then it went through, literally cleaned up the whole G2 profile. I didn't even touch it, and it just did it. Right. And so small little things that you can do on that front are going to be incredibly valuable using agents. There's obviously small use cases and big use cases outside the scope of this video, but yeah, agents are the key to execution. Now, there's one thing that really, really matters to all of this. Okay. The technology is no longer a problem. The knowledge of the AI is no longer a problem. The capabilities, honestly, is not really a problem anymore. The biggest problem I'm seeing with people trying to use AI or use agents is you still need to understand the process, right? Like you give these incredibly high-powered tools to someone that does not have any experience doing SEO, doesn't have any systems, has never driven results. It's not going to do anything for you, okay? The key to really getting the best results with this technology is understanding the process of SEO. Okay, you have to know, how does this all work from end to end? Okay, and so that's why in these videos that I'm going to be doing here on my YouTube channel, this is the first one, which is, what is SEO in 2026? Let's get this high level overview explained. All of the upcoming videos, I'm going to be unpacking every little detail of SEO. Okay, we're going to dive into this. Because there's just so much. There's so much to know, so much to do this the right way. Okay. And no, ChatGPT is not going to help you. No, or some random guy on X who's never done SEO is not going to help you with this, because there's so much nuance and so much detail that goes into building a proper SEO system from end to end. And, at the end of the day, ChatGPT on its own has never developed a strategy, executed a strategy, and iterated on that strategy in its entire existence. Okay. All it ever does is just give you information that it's found, and that's it. But it's never actually executed that work. Now, at this point, agents can execute. They can execute, but they can only execute within the confines of a proper strategy, a proper system. And so that's what I'll be talking about in these, many videos I'm going to be doing here. And if you want like my most up-to-date stuff, like if you want to see like stuff that I'm constantly updating, my systems, everything that I'm doing as far as AI and SEO specifically, SearchOS is probably the best place for that. Okay. So you can see in SearchOS, this is the platform where I manage all of our work across all of our campaigns, all of our businesses, not just SEO, but like literally all of our work. Like you can see, we go into rankability, like we have our engineering in here. Like this is like engineering for our product. Like everything is managed in here. And funny enough, if you want to know, this is my OpenClaw bot here. So Serena. Okay. So this is, she goes and she manages all of the operations in here. But SearchOS is much more than just that. It's obviously, when you click in here, you're going to be able to see any of these. You'll be able to see this. We're starting to upload stuff to the Academy now. So you can see this is the local SEO and AI search playbook is all being built in here. But if you also go, this is where the real magic happens, is every single thing that we do is systemized, right? So hundreds of SOPs in here specifically for local, and now we're starting to build in some SaaS related stuff as well. Uploading the agent skills. So as we build skills with our own agents, we just go ahead and put the templates in here so you can copy them and start to build your skills with your agents as well. Okay, so there's a ton of stuff in here, and I'm just constantly putting new things in here. So if you want really like, you want to figure out how to really do this the right way, this is probably going to be the best place to go. So I'll have a link below the video. And in the next video, we'll start digging into some, really hardcore SEO stuff, but hopefully this helps you get a good idea of, ultimately what SEO is all about right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.